Don't be shy, whoever's in the back, you come sit. I want to give a grace and shkayach to the Rav for coming. It was a busy schedule today, from speech to speech, still making time late at night to come to Chazak Da'ilam. It's a big schos. Thank Rabbi Weiss for orchestrating it. We're looking forward to Bimahana. I don't think it passes. I don't have words of introduction to such a gadol. I could just say that we're getting into the parshas of Golos Mitzrayim, where the Mefarshim Chazal always speak about one of the Yesodis was that one of the Yesodis and tricks of Parai was they didn't give loinitin revach l'isbainin. They didn't give us time to think. So I think it's something we all experience in life. We're very busy between our work and our family and our community and shul shibudim that we don't always have the time to sit down and think, contemplate, and try to plug back in to get our compass straight. So really it's something we should be doing every night, whether it's a Musa Seder or hearing from Gedolim like Rabbi Weiss. But we don't, unfortunately, so we chap Baruch Hashem on such an opportunity that we have the Rav here to hear the V'chizik guidance, and hopefully will be time also to get some questions and answers that were submitted.
So good evening to all of you, and we can almost say Friday Hanukkah. So Sunday night is Ner Rishon Shel Hanukkah. I hope to be at home. So I came into Toronto yesterday night. I'm leaving tomorrow early in the morning, and it's been a very hectic day. And we still have a few meetings tonight. So my time is limited, but when my dear friend, Rabbi Heitner, asked me to make time for this event, I see it as a privilege, as a schus and an opportunity. What is Hanukkah all about? Avonim sheshikzu hayavonim, avnei mizbeach sheshikzu hayavonim. There was a special lishka in Harabayis where those stones were nignas. So the Yevonim were machalal all the Klei HaMikdash. Why was the Nes in Pach HaShemen of the Menorah? The three fundamental Klei Mikdash, the Menorah, Mizbechois, and Shulchan, Keneged Ma. It is clear as daylight, Borur Kishemesh, Keneged Torah, Avoida, and Gemilas Chosodim. There are many Mamura Chazal that tie in the Menorah to Torah. Harogel Bener Haven Le Benin Talmid HaChachomim. That's a Gemara in Shabbos Chov Gimel. Bava Basra Chov Hey, Haroit Tzarach Kim Yadrim V'Simonech Menorah Bedorim. The Mizbechois definitely have to do with Avoida. Avoida Sakabonois and Avoida Satfilo. Brachas Dav Chov, the Gemara says, Tfilo is keneged Tamidim Tiknum. The Tamidim are, the Tfilas are keneged Korbonois. Mizbeach HaPenimi, Tikoin Tfilosi, Ktoires Lefonecho, Masas Kapai Minchas Orev. So Menorah is Torah, Mizbeach is Avodah, and the Shulchan obviously is Chesed. Twice in Shas, in Zvochem, and in Chagigah Daf Chov Zayin, the Gemara says, Shalchonei Shaloda Mechaper Ki Mizbeach, and Rashi and Tosfos both explain why is the Shulchan Mechaper? Because Shulchan indicates Achnosas Orchem and Gemilas Chasodim. So the Yevonim desecrated. They were Mechalal all the Klei HaMikdash, but the Nes was in Pach HaShemen. To emphasize, the Sakana was Lashkichem Terasecho, the salvation was Atzolas HaTorah. And it emphasizes the importance of Torah in our lives, in the life of individual, in the life of a community, in the life of Klal Yisrael. Torah is the oxygen we breathe. Kiheim chayenu va'oirech yomeinu. And that is the central message of Chanukah. There are two mitzvahs, two values, which we not only need to learn and observe, but we need to live. Emunah. Tzadik be'emunusay yechiyah. It is not enough to believe. You need to live with emunah. Be'emunusay yechiyah. It is easy to believe. It is easy to fool yourself that you believe. It is easy to convince yourself that you believe. Emunah, you need to practice and not only believe, not only know. Tzadik be'emunasai yichya. And the other is Torah. Kihi chayechem. We are not only supposed to learn Torah, to observe Torah, we are supposed to live Torah. Torah is life, and you need to live Torah. And living Torah means the Torah dictates every aspect and every facet of our lives. In Brochas Samach Gimel Amud Beis, the Gemara says, "Ezui parsha ktana shekol gufei Torah tluyim bo." Ezui parsha ktana shekol gufei Torah tluyim bo. B'chol drochecho de'ehu, v'hu yiyasha orchesecho. That's a posuk in Perek Gimel of Mishlei. This posuk means that Torah should dictate every aspect of your life, whatever you do and however you do. So halacha should dictate and everything we're doing. And today life has become far more complex and more complicated than it ever was in the past. Some people today are involved in so many different endeavors in business, in finance, in technology, in medicine, and we work hard. And sometimes people get the feeling Yiddishkeit is for the Bismedish, for the Koilel. Well, I practice Yiddishkeit, I practice Torah when I go to daven in the morning, and when I go to learn by night, and I learn the Chavrusa. But we are supposed to live Torah and not only learn Torah. which means 24 hours a day. Torah is part of your life, whether you are in your office or wherever you are. Torah is life, and life is Torah, and Torah is to dictate every aspect of our livelihood. And that is the importance of learning how to live with Torah, how to be aware of the halachic ramifications of what we learn. And when you do business, whether it's Hilchos Levis or Mekach u'Memkar, or so many different questions and so many different aspects. So Baruch Hashem, in recent years, we have been zeicha to a great many works, fascinating literature, halachic literature, hashkafic literature, which deals with many different professions, many different vocations. But what is important is to realize that we are supposed to not only learn Torah, but live Torah. Because Torah is life and Emunah is life. And these two aspects are not only something to learn and to observe, but to live with Emunah and to live with Torah. So this endeavor of, I don't even know what the name is, because I've been seeing so many groups here in Toronto, but this endeavor of coming together and to deal with halachic aspects of the workplace and hashkafic aspects of the workplace is a most important one, because as I mentioned, this is, and it is far more relevant today than it was ever in the past. With the complexity of modern life and the complications and so many different endeavors we are involved with. So this is a most important undertaking which I support with all my heart. I am also aware that this is about networking. Yesodei yazeru. The Nefesh HaChaim is the fundamental work of the yeshivish world. Rabbi Chaim of Volozhin was first and foremost the greatest disciple of the Gra, even though the Gaon had many Talmidim, but Rabbi Chaim is considered to be Mamshech Darakoi. And in a way we could say that the Nefesh HaChaim is the manifesto of the Gra's Hanhoga, the Gra's Hashkafa, and it was not published during Rabbi Chaim's lifetime. The Sefer was published by Rabbi GZL, by his great son, and Mamshech Darakoi. And Rabbi GZL writes in his introduction to Nefesh HaChaim, and we live in a modern world, and sometimes we need to thank singers for making some teachings well known. So there is one line in a famous tefillah of Rabbi Melech Menezhensk. Everybody knows this line, thanks to Avraham Fried. And I ask people, are you familiar with any other line of the tefillah of Rabbi Melech Menezhensk? It's a long tefillah, it takes up 2 pages in the Sidurim. Nobody knows another line. Oh, so thanks to Avraham Fried. And recently, I think a song came out about the line of Rabbi GZL of Volozhin in his introduction to Nefesh HaChaim, where he writes, my father taught me, we have not come to this world for ourselves, neither in Gashmias or not even in Ruchnias. We are all here for each other. And it's not about me. We are all here for each other. And my father used to give me musar, I think too much about myself and too little about others. And that statement is a testament to Rabbi GZL's godless. Because let me make this very clear, if anybody would tell that to me, I would not write it in the Agdama to my Sefer. Never. But Rabbi GZL writes, my father used to tell me, you don't think enough about others. You're too focused on yourself. And now, pshitali, Rabbi GZL was one of the greatest Gedolim of his generation. L'doiroi v'ledoirois. And of course he thought about others, like all the Gedoli Yisrael. But not enough to satisfy his great father's expectations. We're all here for each other. And Torah and Chesed are the two pillars of Yiddishkeit. Torah is life, but the Gemara also says in Yevamos Daf Ayin Tet, Shlosha Semonim yesh ba'uma zu. Shlosha Semonim yesh ba'uma zu. So obviously, if these are the Semonim, those are the fundamental characteristics of who we are. Rachmonim, Baishonim, Vegoimle Chasodim. So Chesed and Torah are the two pillars of who we are, of our existence, of our life, and of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu expects of us. So being there for each other and helping out each other with parnasa, with caring, with finding a parnasa is of utmost importance. So I'm here to encourage both of these endeavors, Torah and Chesed, this organization of networking, helping young people and young couples and young alike finding decent parnassus, and bringing halacha and Torah into every aspect and every facet of our lives and activities. Both these endeavors are extremely important, and that is why I am here tonight. Tovei brocha roishchem, and lechu b'koichachem zeh, v'oishatem es Yisrael. So we have some time for some questions.
I guess we'll start with more of a halacha question. You know, the Rav has a shtickle on it in the Sefer, so just open up with that. What's the halacha regarding if someone, let's say, gets in, someone bangs your car or someone slips and there's an accident, and you want to go ahead and sue the person, which essentially you're suing the insurance company to go ahead and get whatever, I guess, go through the system of the law, the local law, to go get whatever money reimbursements that you can get.
Well, part of Choshen Mishpat is din and nezikin, and if a person causes damage to another, it is totally legitimate to try to get compensation. Din and nezikin is one aspect, erkois is another. And turning to the courts, the secular courts is one of the gravest avedas, and the Lashon of the Rambam regarding Apoinel Arkois is so harsh, we don't find anything similar in the Rambam. So I assume the question is whether you could sue in court. There's no other option, because if ultimately you want the insurance company to kick in, you can't hold these proceedings in Beis Din. So our Psak in Eretz Yisrael is whenever you turn to the courts, first you need permission from Beis Din, and Beis Din will give your permission because there is no other way. The B'chot Sharov and Kesef HaKodeshim says when we know in advance that Beis Din is not an option, then you could turn directly to the court. So I think if a person caused you damage, you are entitled to sue him, especially when at the end of the day, the insurance company will pay, but he will also incur some of the costs. That's the way it always happens. But I think it is totally legitimate, because if a person causes damage to another, the one that was harmed and is entitled to compensation.
What about causing his premiums to go up?
That is the price he will pay, but that is the price he will pay, and so it is definitely legitimate. If there is negligence, and the court will decide was there negligence or not. So yes, that is the loss he will incur, but that is legitimate al pi Allah. I mean, the bigger question is when we're dealing with medical malpractice. And the bigger question is because sometimes you could cause a doctor to lose his license. And that is devastating, because a doctor, he's not going to become a shamash in shul, and he's not going to become the balkoira in shul, and that will not bring him parnasa. So you need to really, really consider whether it is justified or not. But if there is gross negligence, then maybe he shouldn't be a doctor. And so fundamentally, I think when people cause damage or loss or harm to another by negligence, it is legitimate to sue and to be compensated.
In today's world, even covering the basics has become a huge financial challenge. Many people find themselves having to be deeply involved with work just to keep up with the necessities. How can we cope with this constant pressure without losing sight of our well-being and our other areas of Avodas Hashem?
Yiddishkeit is all about balance, and balancing out the many things we are to be engaged and involved in. You need to find time to be kaveh etim l'Torah. You need to find time for your family, and obviously many of us need to find time for their parnassus. And there's a story I told so many times because it's one of my most beautiful stories, and I'm not a big storyteller. I don't tell a lot of stories. Rabbi Yosef Eliyahu Henkin was the gadol in America until the Igros Moshe, came on the stage and he overshadowed everyone else. But Rav Henkin was a gadol and a tzaddik. And when the Chazon Ish passed away, he told this story. When did I first meet the Chazon Ish? It was in a little Russian town called Stovsy, and I came to visit the Rav. The Rav was Rav Sorotskin. I don't remember his first name. And I came into the Rav's home, and the Chazon Ish was coming out, and I didn't know who he was. We were both Jungalite. And I asked him, "Who are you?" And he said, "My father is the Rav of Kosovo," which was a town in Russia. "What do you do?" "We run a store," because the Chazon Ish's wife worked in a store. So he said, "We run a store." "Do you learn?" "Wenn ich hab Zeit, lerne ich." He said, I asked him, "Do you learn?" And he said, "When I have time, I learn." And obviously he had a lot of time, obviously. "What are you doing here?" The Rav called me. When the Rav calls, you come. And that's the end of the conversation. Obviously the Chazon Ish wasn't a very engaging schmoozer. Shoel ke'inyan meishiv kahalocha. And Rav Henkin said, when I came into the Rav, I asked him, "Who is this strange young man that just walked out?" And he asked me, "You don't know Rabbi Avram Yeshai is going to be the gadol hador in a few years. And why did he come here to the Rav?" The Rav told me, "I need to leave town for a surgical procedure. I'll be away a few weeks." And I asked him to step in and answer all the serious questions that might come up when I'm going to be away. But the Chazon Ish said, "When I have time, I learn." Why did you come to the Rav? The Rav called. When the Rav calls, you come. So this is the anava of the Chazon Ish and the chokhmah of the Chazon Ish. But that is the clearest hagdara in mitzvahs Talmud Torah I ever heard. You need to learn when you have time. That is the hagdara of mitzvahs Talmud Torah. When you don't have time, you don't need to learn. But my advice to all of you, when they're going to ask you up there, did you learn? Don't dare to use the Chazon Ish's response. Don't dare to say, "When I had time, I learned," because they'll say, "Really? You think so?" We have a video clip up here of every moment of your life, and it's going to be very embarrassing. Koivish ponav bekarka. And like Ezra Sefer said, "Boishti v'nechlamti lahorim ponei elecho." So, but that is the definition of mitzvahs Talmud Torah. You need to learn when you have time. So how do you define when do you have time? Kol mitzvah she'efshar lasos al yedei acherim doichet Talmud Torah. But it's not only mitzvahs. We have a mitzvah of teaching our children Torah. But every decent, sensible father knows that sometimes you need to play with your children and not just teach your children Torah. And when you feel you need to play with your kids, you're poter mitzvahs Talmud Torah. Many years ago was the first yahrzeit of my wife, and we had a big kenes in Yerushalayim. And I spoke primarily about Asmoda b'Torah. And I said, we are a generation, we are constantly hearing from Rabbanim, from Rosh Hashivas, we're the greatest generation ever. Torah never had it so good. We're all learning Torah, it's amazing, it's great. And I said, if we are so great, why is Mashiach not here yet? So obviously, we're not as great as sometimes we are made to feel. And I said, we can all learn more than we're learning. And 2 days later, a member of my shul came to me with a sheet, and I was so moved. And the sheet, he writes what he does every moment, from when he gets up in the morning, 6:30, till he goes to bed at 11:15 by night. So before noon, he's a malamed. Afternoon, he's in koilol. By night, he has chavrusi, he learns another 2 hours, and he writes in his zetala, I come home 7 o'clock, from 7 to 7:30, I spend time with my wife, I talk to her, and I said, I'm not going to touch this. Let's see all the other moments, minutes throughout the day, but this is Kodesh. We're not going to touch this. What I mean to say is, Yiddishkeit is about balancing out the many things we need to do. So obviously, if your panos is demanding, it's demanding. We all would like to have a panos, a kalav, and a kia, and invest as few hours as possible and be able to learn more and work less. But if your panos is demanding, it is what it is, and you need to find time for your family, and you still need to find a lot of time to learn Torah. Nobody has a magic formula to dictate exactly how much time for what. And that is where quality comes in. And what is important is not only how much time you dedicate to Torah, but the quality of your learning and the simchas of Torah and the yegiyas of Torah that you're achieving, and that is of extreme importance. So when people ask me, what should I learn when I have limited time to learn? I say, the most important thing is what the Gemara says in Avodah Zarah Yutes, learn what gives you the most motivation, the most simcha, and because if you enjoy your learning, you're going to learn more. And if it's a burden, you're always going to find important things to do, and you're going to learn less. So what is important is to enjoy your learning.
Wives in our communities are encouraged to work to support their husbands. It's very difficult to support yourself with one salary in today's environment. Yet there has been a culture shift. It's no longer only providing, but often a drive toward independent career growth, building her own business, her own identity, her own success. Is there a place in Yiddishkeit for this attitude and culture? How should a Bas Yisrael and her husband think about ambition, career identity, and boundaries in a Torah framework?
This is one of the complexities of modern Haredi life. My late mother, Zechleina Levracha, was a very, very special person in so many ways, a Holocaust survivor. She passed away 4 years ago. She was 93 years old. And she passed away, she had 500 descendants, all Shomer Torah v'mitzvahs, and many of them Malbitzei Torah. And she used to say, that's my Nechama and that's my Nekama. She was very wise, an amazing woman. And she also had a sense of humor, and she used to say, I know why you people write the Ksubah in Aramaic, because you don't want us to know what's in there. But we do happen to know that you took upon yourselves Anu Eflach V'ezon V'afarnas, and you have no intention to practice what you promised. So we are living in a new world. So it's hard to sustain your family with one salary. In Israel, in Eretz Yisrael, the matzav is far more complex because everybody is learning, and it's a huge demand on young women that need to bring children to the world, be mechanech their kids, and very few young families in Israel have goyish helpers at home. Nobody could afford it. So it's a huge burden on our young daughters. And this is, as much as we appreciate our Avreichim, I think even far more appreciation we should reserve for their wives. So it is the reality of our generation. And L'choire doesn't fit in well with Kol Kvuda Bas Melech Pelima. But we are living in a different world. Let us just be aware that not long ago, there were no schools for girls in Beis Yisrael. This is a new development and a revolutionary development. And when the first Beis Yaakovs opened up, many Gedolim were adamantly against this development because traditionally, girls were at home. And my mother used to tell me when Beis Yaakov arrived in Salish, the town she grew up, it was only afternoon hours, and it was so revolutionary. Many families, weren't ready to send their kids out of the house. But that was the godless of the Chofetz Chaim and the Imre Emes. These were the two Gedolim that decided that is the call of the times. So we are living in a changing world, and we adjust and we adapt. And alavai, it wouldn't be the reality, but the reality is that women must participate in providing for our families. And when I say they must participate, that's in American Haredi society. In Israel, they not only participate, they bear most of the burden of parnosa. Is that a lachatchila? No, I don't. I think it's a b'di'evet. But it is a b'di'evet that morphed into a lachatchila because that is the way our society functions. Halavai, we could do it differently, but we can't. Now, it is inevitable. It is inevitable that when women go to the workforce and they want to be successful, that many of them will want to develop careers and to move forward in the workforce. So, it is very easy to preach theory, and it's more complicated when you need to put theory into practice. So if you ask whether that is the right attitude, no, it's not the right attitude. If we would have our way, if we could go back in the tunnel of time, women should be sitting at home, caring for their children, and in their spare time saying Tznius and Tehillim. That's what they did 100 years ago and 200 years ago. But it's a different world, and we adapt. And Baruch Hashem, that woman dedicating so much time and effort and koyach to help Parnasa, Baruch Hashem, we have a generation of Noshim Tzedkoniyos, and to be cherished and admired. And what is there more I should say? I don't think it's a lachatchela women pursuing careers, but it is the reality of the life we live in and we decided to live in.
If a vendor only accepts cash and demands that the buyer not report the purchase to the tax authority as a business expense, would it be naiver to agree to such an arrangement? If a buyer did agree, must he keep the agreement, or may he nevertheless report the purchase as a business expense?
If I would realize this question, I would ask it should be taken out of this sheet. But I didn't have time to read this sheet because I hate these questions when I'm asked, because fundamentally my halachic opinion is Dina de Malchusa Dina. Dina de Malchusa Dina, and the law of the land is halacha. Not only in Chutz La'aretz, but in Eretz Yisrael as well. Ein halacha kedivrei Rashba that in Eretz Yisrael Dina de Malchusa doesn't apply, because the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch have a different opinion, and definitely in Chutz La'aretz. Dina de Malchusa Dina. I feel uncomfortable being from when dealing with parnosas and saying things that everybody does, that you can't do it. I think everybody does it, especially in Eretz Yisrael. And so, if you ask my abstract halachic opinion, I think Dina de Malchusa Dina. And I think a from person that believes in Hashgacha Pratis should believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give him parnasa beheter, bekavod, ubeshefa. That is my halachic opinion. Halacha l'maisa, what should I say? Should I say what everybody does is not legitimate? I don't know. It's okay.
We have time for one more?
I hope I handled it. Yeah.
How do we approach the topic of holiday gifting from an hashkafic perspective? So, we could maybe we'll have time after, but from a hashkafic perspective, we feel that it's a standard business practice and many times very much expected. And at the same time, it doesn't feel right, especially if many times, the person you're gifting could be a female acquaintance or associate.
So one of the challenges of this new world I mentioned before, Kol Kvuda Bas Melech Penima. The proper halachic or Torah hashkafa would be to have women sitting at home, caring for their homes, for their children. But we're living in a different world, and we can't turn the clock back. But it is extremely important to uphold the standards of Tznius, ki rabim chalolem hipilo. And the division between men and women in the workplace is of extreme importance. So some Rabbonim go to the extremes, even to absurdities. And, teaching our daughters that if a man says hello, you can't answer him. If he asks what's your name, you need to say, my name is Mrs. Friedman, but it is extremely important, to be aware of the cheshoshes, of the sakonas, of the pitfalls, and not to become too hamish and too friendly and too cordial with women co-workers or associates. And this is also relevant in the kidduv world, because our generation has undertaken endeavors that were unheard of in the past, and also not achievable in the past. So not only has our world changed with women going out to work, but the entire kidduv endeavor, we never had this before. This is a totally new challenge to our world. We have more geirim, and I'm talking about proper geirim, geirei tzedek. We have more geirim in 1 year in the Jewish world today than we ever had in 100 years previously. In 100 years, we didn't have as many geirim as we have each year. And I'm talking about proper geirim, geirei tzedek. We have more Balei Tshuva than we had in 1,000 years. How many Balei Tshuva came? And in the tshuva movement, in the kidduv movement, there's also very problematic situations in which Jungalite engage girls or women, and we need to set very clear boundaries. And when I speak to kidduv organizations, I say it needs to be teamwork. I prefer if you have a couple working and she would engage the woman, he would engage the men. So in this new world we live in, whether it's a workforce or in kidduv activities, we need to be aware of the wisdom of Chazal, when Chazal were Kavei Gedorim and Siyogim, Shnias Darayis, Kleva Be'erva, and many other Eina Petropes La'arayis. So I cannot go into specific details, but it is so important to be aware of the chashashas, of the pitfalls, and working together, men and women. So I really need to apologize because I think people are waiting for me. And it's, as I said in my opening remarks, it's a schus for me to be here. And I thank Rabbi and my friend for giving me this opportunity, and my bracha to all of you. We should all together, and each of one of us on his own, we should all be zoicha b'chol yom v'yom lekadesh Shem Shomayim.
Thank you so much. It was perfect. Perfect. Wish light
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much.
Enjoy it. All of me here in Toronto.